Hey, we've got Wade Bell, farm consultant from the. Hello, we've got farm consultant Wade Bell with us today and Greg Buhler speaking to us. Looking forward to that. Just before we get into it, though, my name's Noldy. I'm the current chair of SMASH, and it's certainly my privilege to welcome you all here today to our session of SMASH around the kitchen table. We haven't done this for a little while now, but certainly looking forward to today's event. Now, Wade Bell is a consultant in the Waikato, farm consultant, and Greg Buhler, a fantastic bloke, dairy farmer, ex-Dairy NZ CEO and Pioneer representative. So we're looking forward to see what he's got to say. Just want to thank our sponsors again, thank them for their support, and also want to thank Dairy NZ for partnering with us and making all this possible. So hope you've got some questions there. Listen to what these guys have got to say, and if you've got any questions, please make sure you post them, and they will endeavour to come back to you and answer them as best they can. So we've got about 40 minutes together here. We look forward to what we're going to hear, and we'll sign off again at the end when I come on briefly to thank you all for attending and leaving it. So we hand over to Wade now and look forward to what we've got to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Noldy. And just a quick reminder there, if you do have questions as we go, just to pop them up online. I will stop from time to time and we'll try and cover some of those questions off. And look, that just makes it a little bit more interactive for Greg and I, and a bit more fun, to be honest. So thanks, Greg, for agreeing to be part of this. It's kind of nice to be out of the Waikato and get into Taranaki and see what's happening down in your neck of the woods. So look, probably the best way to start is to really just, if you can just give us a snapshot, and hopefully people can see on the screen there a little bit of your background, but it just gives a bit of context to some of the things that we're going to talk about today. So perhaps if you just want to start with that, just to get us going.
Yeah, thanks, Wade, and good afternoon, everybody. Well, Jackie, my wife, and I, we farm a 62-hectare farm in Manatee, which is halfway between Hawera and Patea in South Taranaki. We milk 160 beautiful Jersey cows. There's a few crossbreds mixed in amongst those as well. And look, we calve from the 20th of July, which leads the mating to about the 15th of October. A policy we've brought in is to go once a day from the 20th of December, and we're prominently, or historically, we've been self-contained in terms of a very much a pasture-based system. And look, by no means do we think our system is an exemplar for everyone, but for us, we aim to run a very low-cost, simple, good profit system that delivers our family and lifestyle needs at this current stage. So we think it does that, and yeah, really enjoy it.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so that gives people a bit of context. So we've got a couple of topics that we were going to get into. The first one was just around feed and what things were looking like on farm at the moment. And I think there's some really interesting stuff happening, and I think, to be fair, we're seeing a bit of this in the Waikato as well, or certainly in parts of the Waikato. But do you want to just again give us that snapshot of where things are looking like, or what things are looking like on farm at the moment? Because I think there'll be a lot of farmers out there that will be familiar with what you're experiencing, which has been a pretty good spring and some good feed on farm at the moment.
Yeah, that's right, Wade. Like, hopefully everyone's experienced a very similar spring to what we've had down here in Taranaki. It's been this is our 8th season farming, so we're only babies compared to a lot of people in the district. But by far, it's been such an enjoyable season, and we've had great weather, great conditions, and with that, we've had the benefits that come from those conditions, which is great growth rates for this time of the year, which has created a few different challenges in terms of managing grass and the likes and rotation length. But yeah, it's been one out of the box, and certainly one that I won't forget for a long time because of how great it's been. So you can see up there, our cover is we target at balance date to have a cover of no less than 2,000, and our calving cover target is around that 22 to 2,400. you can see right now we're at a cover. We've got a cover of 2450, which is massive. And but as an all grass farmer, it's actually almost like having I guess our reserve is in our cover at the moment, and it only takes a little wet spell like we've had the last couple of days to really appreciate having feed in the paddocks for the cows to go and munch at. So look, our pre-grazing levels are, sorry, with that 2400 cover too, we haven't got an excessive range of feed from like we're sort of going into that 3200. We just have a lot of paddocks that are around that 2400 to 26, 2700. And I guess that's from our fertilizer application we did earlier on to sort of boost growth for our pinch period, which is normally from about today till the sort of 10th or 15th of September, we find the most challenging. So yeah, daily we're obviously our feed situation's changing, and so too is our area that we're grazing. We're currently talking to Wade before, we're on a 93, we're giving 93 square meters per cow per day. And that's basically, you know, giving them as much as we can without sacrificing residuals too much. It is definitely such a balancing act as an all grass farmer, Wade, and you'd see this with clients and people in the Waikato too, where we're trying to maximize intakes, but at the same time achieve tidy residuals in the paddock. And so you're almost trying to contradict yourself a little bit with what you're doing. So it's a definite challenge, but one that's been a great problem to have. I wouldn't have it any other way.
So I look at your numbers that you put up there, and to me it goes up like everything looks like it matches just perfectly in terms of, you know, spring rotation plan. I know you stick to that like the Bible, don't you, Greg? You know, absolutely, Greg. Yeah, you know. I know you have some other rules of thumb around that, which is great. But look, the numbers that we've put up there very closely match where you would expect to be on your spring plan, except for obviously the average pasture cover being way higher than, you know, I've said 200 to 300 kilos a hectare higher than where you might expect. Now, what I'm gonna do here quickly, because you sent me a photo, and we want to make sure people can see what we're talking about here in terms of what you're faced with at the moment. Let me just make that a little bit bigger, and hopefully people can see. Can you see that large enough now, Greg?
Yep, that's come through for me. Yep.
So yeah, so all your spring plan stuff seems to be going well, but you've kind of got well, perhaps not the scenario because this was taken a few days ago, but how are you kind of managing that aspect, the much higher pasture cover than where you'd expect to be, and kind of what do you think is going to play out over the next 2 to 3 weeks?
Yeah, good question, Wade, because I mean that's exactly it. We've still got I guess the next fortnight is a critical time for us. Being all grass is that we've got a lot of demand now, and so having a bit of cover is beneficial. What we have done the last few weeks, and this is probably what a great photo to put up, isn't it? Really, like, because it's definitely not an example for post-grazing residuals, but the reality is that was our driveways behind this photo. So I took it from our driveway heading to our house, and it just showed a pre and a post, and I thought, look, that's the reality of what we've got at the moment. It was a slightly wet night, and the cows, you can sort of see where they've walked up the fence line a little bit there, just having a little nibble underneath the fence. But what I was doing earlier on when we're having issues with residuals, I guess, is I had 20 late cows. I've never done this before, but it worked really well. I had 20 late cows following mainly the colostrum mob. But if I had an issue like this on a wet night and I wasn't quite satisfied with how the cows had chewed it out, I'd whip them in there, and they did a fantastic job to bring it back down to a level that I'd be happy with for the following round.
Yep. So you've essentially used them as a cleaning kind of mob, but obviously that's going to disappear. Well, it is largely getting down to pretty small numbers now.
Yeah, that's right. We've got 20 left to calve now, and obviously the last week also they were my September calving cows. So we obviously dust our paddocks is the way that they get their magnesium. So I've had to put them in behind a wire again and dust the paddocks just to ensure that they get the right magnesium levels that they need. So it's all about the cows trying to do the job for me now. But like I said, you've got to be a little bit flexible with your it's all very well trying to be sticking to a set round and a set area per cow per day, but you need to be flexible, have a plan, but be flexible in those periods of wet weather or times when you need to potentially give them a little bit of extra feed, and then potentially there's nothing worse than underfeeding a freshly calved cow. So we're definitely trying to maximize intakes at the same time as really fighting to get our residuals correct as well.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of questions up here that relate to what we're talking about now, or is probably partly what we're going to get into. But one just popped up just for people's reference point. What's your calving date? 20th of July, isn't it?
Yeah, 20th of July for the main herd. The heifers we actually calve a couple of days earlier, but not excessive. Yeah.
Yep, and the other question, which is kind of where we're heading in this conversation anyway, is where do you see with the current pasture cover situation? You're obviously probably at a point where you're almost trying to feed to appetite in some respects now. Is silage? Can you kind of see that now, or are you kind of going, hey, look, I'm probably another week or two away from making that call?
Yeah, I've always been, and people have done it very successfully, made early grass silage. For me, I feel like my cover, there's obviously positives and negatives of it being where it is at. I see it as a feed reserve that I'm still going to be tapping into in the next fortnight, and I believe that cover, obviously, by the 15th of September, we're probably talking it might be down. I'm just guessing, but around that 2100, which is not far away from what my target was, because we are starting to. We are definitely feeding to appetite, but at the same time, if I had to make early silage, what a great problem to have. Because at the end of the day, our system relies on around 200 bales of grass silage each year, and I either have to make those or I have to buy them in. And if I can make, more of those, it becomes a much more profitable way to get my grass silage on hand. Yeah, good question though. Yeah.
But your demand at the moment. So, like I did the quick numbers because you obviously sent me a bit of info beforehand. So I'm sort of estimating your demand at the moment about 45 a day when you look at the balance between milkers and dries, and obviously peak demand's another 2-3 weeks away yet. You're probably, I'm only surmising, if it's anything like here in the Waikato, you're probably growing or achieving similar growth rates to that now, and quite possibly will be over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely, Wade. A little that we're probably achieving slightly higher than the Waikato, really. Us Taranaki guys down here, Wade.
Go easy, mate. Go easy.
No, look, absolutely, and that's it. And consistently, balance dates defined as when supply matches demand. And there's definitely been days when we've grown 50 plus. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But it's on a consistent period. I find, being all grass, I find if I go too hard too early or too aggressive with my rotation, I can get into problems if we do end up having a wet September. So I'm quite happy. Look, the cows, they're on 93 squares, which seems like I'm still holding them back. But to achieve my residual I want, that's as much as I could possibly give them. And as I start coming down in terms of my pre-grazing covers, the cows will obviously be getting as much as I can possibly fill them with, while still achieving what I need to achieve. But it's knowing when to go, isn't it? And then backing yourself once you make that call that, hey, we're there, let's let them rip. You do, and that's where I'm. It is always a challenge to fully feed a cow on all grass, really, isn't it? And so maximising as much as they can possibly fit in their rumen is so important. Yeah.
And one of the questions that come up here is about the challenges of grass-based farming. Well, that's absolutely one. Is it? You don't have a get out of jail, what I call a get out of jail card with supplementary feed inputs. You rely on that kind of taking that feed wedge forward, perhaps a bit longer than what some others might, to bridge those dirty weather periods.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good question. It's one of the biggest one of the biggest challenges is exactly that, and we're determined our decisions, I guess, are a little bit influenced by what the weather gods provide for us, because I mean, we could be having this conversation in a year's time and it could be the complete opposite, and it's a completely new set of rules, I guess, that you need to follow. So it's tricky. Like, it's definitely a challenge, but I know every system has their challenges, but for me, that's probably exactly how you've summed up. That's definitely, you know, if I had a massive bunker of maize silage or something in the bank, I mean, you'd be absolutely ripping weeks ago. Your balance date obviously changes, and you'd probably be into as quick as you normally go, and having that backstop if you need to tap into a bit of feed reserves, you can. Whereas my feed reserves are what's in the paddock, and obviously we've got a few bales of silage left over, 60 odd bales of silage left over that we haven't needed through the winter months because of how great spring was. So
dare I ask, nitrogen use? It seems like a crazy question to throw out there right now, and I can remember years ago, and you'll remember too, Greg, and you know, being a consultant out with farmers, and you know, you think, oh, when you've got lots of feed, hey, look, pull the nitrogen out of the system, and away you go. What's your approach to that? And what's your plan over the next 2 to 4 weeks? Is it a nard, look, drop it out, or are you open-minded to that? I've got a view, and I'll be interested in hearing yours.
Yeah. So that's right. Like, it doesn't potentially make sense to try to grow more feed when you're already in a very positive feed situation. But for us, we have, and we tend to every spring. I follow with very light rates. We're not massive end users, and that's a personal decision. It's just how we try to base our system. But one critical time I do like to use nitrogen is from sort of that early July period to cover off the paddocks that we graze through the winter.
Yeah.
And then right through, like I said, our critical pinch time is normally from around now, or the 25th of August, through to about the 15th of September. So I'm quite happy to have nitrogen-fed pasture available during that time to give my cows some bulk going into that second round type of growth. It just thickens it out a little bit. And look, worst case scenario, like I said before, that we do push it into a surplus. The numbers, I think, Wade, you'll show potentially that they stack up to potentially do that instead of and grow my own grass silage, where I can control when it gets cut, when it gets how well it gets dried, and when it gets baled. I'd much rather have control over making my own grass silage than purchasing it in. So it's a good problem to have in my situation.
Yeah, and I did the quick maths on that, because I know you and I had spoken about that previously. You know, obviously nitrogen assisted growth in the spring is pretty cheap, because the response from now through is really good. Obviously, the ultimate is that if you can get that grass through the cow and into the stainless as cheaply as you can. But you made a comment right at the start about you know, obviously making silage is not cheap, and depending on whether you put it into a bunker or you put it into rats, makes quite a difference as well, obviously. But it's quite critical, that silage is quite critical to your system. I think you made that comment right at the outset about needing that feed. And typically, what are you doing? When are you bringing that back in, or what are you doing with that surplus feed, and how does it make the system work?
Yeah, so it's really important for us through the summer months, and also even leading into the autumn, to push my round back out. Quite simply, we have 34 paddocks, and I remember actually Philippa Headley from Dairy NZ, who is I really had a lot of time for her. She's a farm systems specialist. She said to me, like, successful grass management is about manipulating rotation length. And I thought it was such a cool thing. And so we technically, we keep it really simple, like I said at the start, what we aim to do. And so we have 34 paddocks. Our summer round's a 34-day round, a paddock a day. And then in the springtime, like now, we normally go to a paddock and a half in a 24-hour period, which is, again, very simple way of doing it. And it gives us around a 24-day round through the bulk of spring. When we take silage out, we probably drop down to, at the fastest, we'll go sort of 21 days at most, which is very, very quick for me, and it gets me a little bit nervous. But so anything surplus that comes from identifying either residuals getting too high, which is almost a reactive response. I feel sometimes when you just look at residuals, you've already something has to go wrong for you to then get it right a little bit. So I guess especially early on in our career of farming, we plate meted all the time, especially this critical time, because we need to know what our pre-grazing was, what our targets were, were we meeting the targets, as a surplus identified straight away, and potentially I could be a little bit more aggressive with making silage. But anything that's got to be a true surplus to be made, because as you said, Wade, it is expensive to turn it into silage. It's ideally you'd put it through the cow and into the vat. But going back to your nitrogen use, I feel it's almost a similar rule as some people that may have in-shed feeding systems or feed pads that feed their cows and then potentially puts them into a little bit of a surplus as well. Whereas grass silage is such a valuable feed, and especially spring grass silage, it's high in protein, is a valuable feed for summer time where you can fill the cows up, especially with with our uncertain summers. And so look, it's a very, very valuable feed for us. It's simple, it's quick, easy to feed out, easy to calculate intakes and what we need, how much we need to feed. So it's critical for what we do, because we don't summer crop as well. So we are just literally relying on grass.
Okay. And so just really quick, we'll get off this and get on to the next topic, because it's good to keep things rolling. But there is a question that's popped up, and I'll just see if I can interpret it. Do you just see if I grade this for a longer period? So do you just do a rolling harvest of your silage, and so just instead of grazing, or do you shut it up for long periods of time and then just make do bulk lots at higher yields? I kind of think that's the question, at least.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, Wade, and we're very lucky and fortunate that our next door neighbour is the man that does our silage for us, so we can potentially be a little bit I guess being a smaller farm, it's quite hard to get a contractor to come in to do a couple of hectares of silage for us. So I tend to target different lots. So especially when grass is starting to go to head, sort of in November, I'll want a little bit more bulk, and I don't mind if it's a little bit longer, and they can put the knives through the silage when they're cutting it as it's going through the baler and make beautiful silage. Or the short leafy stuff's ideal, because the quicker it's out off the paddock, that paddock's back in the round, it's growing again, it's available for the cows. So it's trying to minimize that time that silage is out, but at the same time there is an advantage of having some slightly longer, I guess, grass silage in terms of making it more worthwhile for the contractor and trying to make the costs of doing it better.
Cool. Okay. Look, what we're going to do, we're going to move on to the topics, and I see another question's popped up, which probably relates to what we're going to talk about next. But it's probably quite a good time. So the next topic is really just thinking a little bit further out, which is now, we're still in calving, and now we're going to start talking about mating, which seems a little bit bizarre, but hey, that's all right. We can think a little bit further out. And probably the best way, I thought, you sent me through a little video clip, which is great. And I thought that's a good way for people to be able to see essentially a bit of a sample of the cows in your herd, and there's a little bit of a story behind some of those cows. So I'll pop that video up, and then perhaps people will be able to connect with what you're seeing here. So this is a video that you took here. They're of the colostrum cows, is that right? The ones in the foreground?
Yeah, correct, Wade. This was taken probably, was it about 10 days or so ago? So obviously those pre-grazing covers, this is trying to tidy up some grass that the dry cows never had to get to in the foreground with the colostrums. And obviously the milkers are in the background there. That last cow is probably not the ideal cow to show, but I guess we all have those as farmers. She had twins, a very difficult calving, had twins that I had to calve, and so she just gets a little bit of extra treatment in the colostrum mob there.
That's the cow here?
Yeah, that's that cow there. Oh, don't freeze it on it, Wade. We just move quickly off that one. Anyway, that's her deal. And And so obviously going into mating, cows like her are cows that I definitely. So she's once a day. Any cow that I have that's had a difficult calving, or a cow that's lost condition post calving in a way that I'm not happy with, they go on once a day from the word go. And so it's normally not many, like it might be half a dozen, 10 at the very most. And it just takes the pressure off them, and we've had very, very good results with getting those cows back in calf by doing that.
So you're talking about 5% of your herd, basically, that are in that at-risk condition-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have sometimes, the odd cow that's had it's a very well figured, like a high figured herd, and the difficulty with these cows on straight grass, they tend to do, it's conditions always something that we I guess I'm never 100% satisfied with. It's very hard to get to mating and go, they're exactly where I want them. But look, we tend to have very good mating results, so potentially I'm a little bit hard on ourselves. But cows like her, I feel she needs all the attention I can possibly give her because of her condition, and just because she's trying to milk very, very well. And I need her to get in calf in a couple of months' time. So that's probably the main thing we'll do with anything that's had issues with either calving difficulty, or is a little bit was a little bit off with milk fever, or just hasn't come into milk as I would have liked. Yeah.
One of the things that I see a lot of is, farmers make that decision, a lot closer to mating, and it's almost, there's still a benefit, obviously, of once a day and taking some pressure off those cows at that point leading up to mating. But to really maximise the benefit of once a day for the mate, for leading into mating for cows like this, you do really need to start quite early, don't you, to start seeing the benefit in terms of the condition of the cow.
Yeah, and that's right, Wade, exactly. And I know, I guess people might ask, do I separate them and have them in a separate mob where they're sort of 24-hour graze and they only come to the shed once, or they're close to the shed? I don't do that, because I just want to keep things as simple as possible, and I still feel it takes the pressure off them enough to help them turn a corner and start cycling and to get back in calf again. So that's right, and you want to do it early, like you said, Wade. And we're very happy to do it from day one if they've had we obviously we once a day our colostrum cows anyway, and so I'm happy to continue those sort of cows right the way through. Yeah.
And this cow back here, so she's only just calved. She looked in pretty good nick, to be fair. That's a bit hard. Let's just back up here. She was pretty good. So by comparison, a cow like that?
Yeah, actually, she's probably a bad example. Well, she was a carryover cow 2 seasons ago, and she's just
I know.
Like, that's, you got to take the right videos. I won't win any medals for quality of video though, Wade. I wanted that mounted in the background.
Yeah,
and that was
good.
That's the one place I could get it. But yeah, that cow. So she's each year we keep 4 of our top empty cows, and we carry them over, and she was one 2 years ago that we carried through, and she's just held her condition the whole way. Like, she is a really cool cow and a friendly cow. But even cows like her, generally, like our cows calve, we wouldn't have anything sort of under that 4.5 condition at calving. We'd have 90% to 95% 4.5 or better easy, and most of them around that 5. I find Jersey cows that calve way too fat, and I'd be interested to see what other farmers think of this too. But in my opinion, I find that they are the ones that potentially have issues post calving with milk fever or ketosis, because they just milk so much off their back, and I'm trying to feed them, sometimes low dry matter grass to fill up their requirements. But a cow like that I really like, because she still looks exactly the same now, and that was a couple of weeks ago. So
no, perfect. So there's a question that's popped up here, which we're now sort of fast forward a little bit into mating. So do you, in terms of sire selection, AB, what do you do in that space? Because you do have it's quite the figures, like you mentioned, are good for this herd. So what are you doing in that space for the season ahead?
Yeah, cool. That's awesome, because it is like it's probably my second favorite part of a farming season. Is obviously I love springtime. It's the ultimate, and then for me, choosing the bulls to go over the cows is awesome. And I'm lucky I've got a lot of friends that are very much into their mating as well. And one in particular, a very good friend up the road from us, he actually does our AI for us. So we nominate everything. So we choose our 5 favorite bulls from the catalogue, and we basically do 4 weeks of AI, and then we run a couple of our own Jersey bulls, and then we finish up with short gestation semen. It's very hard because even though these are very, very good figured animals, and we've been very lucky we've had a buyer for our surplus AI calves, we keep very minimal replacements because that's just the way we work, and it's hard to find a demand for AB heifer calves. And so we've been very lucky. A guy from Stratford's taken ours the last few years, and he's very happy with them. And we just have a relationship with him each year. But I potentially do too much AI. Well, I definitely do too much AI for what I need. But if I didn't use AI, I'd have to use something else, or put the bulls out earlier and have to almost double or triple the team. And so I'm happy to give every cow a chance and keep the very best from those sort of 3 or 4 weeks of AI.
Yeah, perfect. And look, this is a question that's just popped up, and it actually prompted me. I was talking to one of the reps the other day, actually, and it might come up in this question. Is minimising bobby calves part of what you do? And if so, how's that achievable in a Jersey herd? And I guess another part of the question of that is, does something like sex semen have a place for what you do? And I know sex semen's had a pretty rough history. I don't know, have you given it any consideration?
Oh, 100% I've given it consideration. I think the liquid sex semen that they're offering now, I think it's fantastic. And with only a couple of percent, don't quote me on that, but I know I am live, but of difference compared to a normal straw. I guess I'm at the point where I love being able to select from a daughter-proven team heifers or bulls that I want to select over my cows. Whereas I find sometimes the sex semen team, they're great bulls, don't get me wrong. They're not the elite that I sort of want to use. But very, very good question, because if you did want to minimize your bobby calves, I could make everything to sex semen and sell all those surplus heifer calves. We have had for the 8 years we've been farming, other than this year, we've had a market for our Jersey bulls. Our neighbour again up the road would take those through to weaning and sell them on to his brother. And that was a great little relationship we had going, and there is still very much a demand for Jersey bulls, which minimised our bobby calf numbers in a big way. It's never a nice thing, bobby calves, and it's one thing obviously with beef, like that question would be targeted to a crossbred or Friesian herd. The options with using beef straws are massive with the value of those calves over Jerseys. It's difficult, but I love my Jerseys, and I'll keep farming them and keep them as Jersey as I possibly can. But it definitely does come with its challenges regarding the calf.
Yeah, no, cool. Look, I'm going to finish, and I'm going to finish with one question. And I'm going to take a short step back. Now, you do get good reproductive results. But I know you don't do pre-mating heats, and industry would say best practice is to do pre-mating heats. But what obviously in a small herd that makes it a little bit easier for you. But what are you kind of looking out for in the lead up, and that sort of 1 month prior to the start of mating? What gives you either confidence or not that you're on track? Are you kind of keeping a rough tally a day, or what are you doing there?
Good question, Wade, again, and it is something that we haven't done in the past. But you sort of, I milk the cows every day, and I love milking. It's my favourite job on the farm, and so you get a feel when you see them every day, twice a day, and you get a feel with how they're going. There's been 1 year, and I think it was I think 3 years ago we had a serious early drought down here in Taranaki. Other regions may have experienced the same thing, and I was worried. Like, I was pretty nervous about what mating was going to be like, but no, they tend to cycle mate, and I really pride myself on not doing any intervention. The once a day, I guess, of those lighter cows, you could class that as potentially intervention, but you might have a slow first week, but then a very, very strong second and third week, and by the time you're finished mating after 10 weeks, we tend to have a result that I'm happy enough with.
Yeah, cool. And I think probably, to share that message out to how that might relate to other farmers, I guess in my mind is to say, well, if you're getting the results that you aspire to in terms of reproductive performance from your herd, and what you're doing is working, then that's great. If it's not working, or you're not getting those results, then you need to start looking at the areas of best practice where there might be some gaps, and actually say, hey, look, maybe I do need to close some of those up, because they're all contributors to getting a good result. If you're already getting a good result, well, that's great.
Yeah, I'll probably jinx myself now. I hate saying things before they happen, But look, at the same time, that's right. And to do everything properly and follow best practice, I think it's very, very valuable if you need to improve your results as well. Yeah, because obviously it all starts and stops for next season is basically around mating time, isn't it? And getting that time right. So you do everything you possibly can, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Hey, look, we're going to wrap it up, because I like to keep it nice and tight to time. And I'm going to finish with this question, which is probably quite a nice way to finish, because we've obviously heard a bit about what you enjoy about farming, and that passion certainly comes through, which is awesome. And so what are some of the things you do outside of farming? Just quickly to finish with, what are the interests outside?
Oh, yeah, no, that's a great question too. I'm obviously, I didn't say at the start, we've got three young children. So Henry's 4, Holly's 2, and Emily's 4 months old. And I love my family and doing whatever I possibly can with them outside of farming, and hence the reason we're farming the way we are with 160 cows, keeping it simple. It's very important for me to involve the family, and I'm lucky with my mum, who lives on farm as well, and she helps me like there's no tomorrow through springtime, and really appreciate that support too. So outside of farming, we played pre-kids. We were right into our sport. We're sort of 3 or 4 nights a week into our sport, and a bit of volleyball and squash. We used to play hockey, and that's awesome. Catching up with mates, I just find it's very, very important. It's hard to leave the gate sometimes until you're in the car and you're driving off down the driveway. You can go and you feel so refreshed once you've gone and spoken to someone else, or gone and done something else. It just makes you come back and then really appreciate your farm and where you are again. So I find, I'm probably lucky, Wade, in that, and a lot of farmers feel the same way. We like to be able to farm as a pleasure as well as a job, if that makes sense, or a hobby as well as a job. Yeah. And when you find that, I think it's so important to just live life really, and enjoy every day, and that's what I do. So I'd be very happy. A perfect day off for me would be a day on the farm, and that's awesome. It might sound like a bit of a nerd, but it's just an awesome place to live, and we're lucky we've got great people around us and great family support.
Yeah, no, that's bloody awesome, mate. Hey, look, we'll wrap that up there. That's a really cool way to finish. We'll bring Noldy back in just to do a quick sum up and let people get on their way. So Noldy, thanks, Greg. First of all, it's always great fun talking to you, because you're a super passionate man, and doing some great things there. Really passionate about your system and your family and what you're up to. So good work. Hope the rest of the spring goes really well. And Noldy, we'll hand it back to you, mate.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Wade. Hey, what a neat session, and it's so encouraging to see such a young, keen guy just love what he's doing and combining work with pleasure. So I love that comment that if he had to choose a holiday or a day off, he'd spend it on the farm. So it's just so good to see. Just a couple of quick comments to you, Greg. All-round good guy, Greg Buhler. Pasture farming, all grass like System 1, it's sort of a dying art, I think, and I'll take my hat off to you. It's certainly not easy. You're balancing the grass situation all the time and just manipulating stocking rates and using nitrogen, but it's a real art, and I take my hat off to you for that. Yeah, beautiful to see the mountain in the background and those Jersey cows. I guess my only comment there would be it's a beautiful picture, not quite as nice as in my view as a herd of Friesians with Pirongia Mountain in the background, but we won't go any further than that. And one more comment, Greg, you got a good neighbour there. I picked up. I mean, he does your AI and he bales your silage and he also buys your surplus calves. So yeah, with neighbour like that, I mean, you got to be set, don't you? So yeah, well done. Hey, just good to hear you guys. Thanks, Wade and Greg, for a fantastic session. That was really, really awesome. Enjoyed it, and would love to catch up again in the future and just see how the season pans out for you. You've got a good feed surplus on hand there by the looks of it. Whether it remains a surplus or depending on what happens going forward the next few weeks, it'd be good to see. So thanks guys, and just to all the viewers, thank you on behalf of Smash for joining us today. Just like to thank our sponsors again on the screen there. Really appreciate their support. And yeah, look forward to you guys joining us again at some stage with some more Smash online series. And just be mindful, we've got a whole lot of field days and indoor events coming up throughout the season in the months ahead. So keep an eye on our website and on your Facebook page to make sure that if there is an event in your area, please come along and take part. So thanks again. Have a great afternoon. And yeah, over and out. My name's Noldy, signing off on behalf of Smash around the kitchen table. Bye-bye.